Today we're going to talk about more Dawn of War 4, but before we start on the actual details, there's something far bigger to address first. That's the gameplay focus of Dawn of War 4, which is going to be PvE first before PvP content. This is not fluff, trust me, there's a lot leading in the same direction. So, King Art Games have been feeding tidbits of information to us consistently about their grand vision and how the future of Warhammer RTS is going to look like. Most were regarding story, lore, and the foundations of the combat system, sync kills, the new combat director, and the 4 factions. Now, of course, we want to know all about these things, but there hasn't been a lot regarding what content Dawn of War 4 will present to us players the most on launch. And yet, there's tons of information about it out there. It all leads to co-op and PvE-centric modern strategy game. The studio has already revealed that on launch we can expect a unique campaign for each of the 4 races, so Space Marines, Orcs, Adeptus Mechanicus, and the Necrons, resulting in a total of about 70 campaign missions with branching decisions and multiple playthroughs. We also know that they are working together with legendary Warhammer author John French with the goal of creating an impactful grand campaign that we'll all remember. And the cherry on top is that they confirmed roughly 1 hour-long beautiful cinematics to support it. Now, how come they dedicated so much resources into the campaign? As it turns out, it is not a coincidence, and while Games Workshop is heavily pushing the narrative recently, King Art Games held a massive RTS survey a few years ago, asking the big questions regarding what players enjoy in strategy games. The biggest surprises? An overwhelming amount of responses supported that while multiplayer is important too, campaign and cooperative content is what the majority prefers the most, or at least would like to see more of, with an astounding 80% of the voters showing interest in co-op content and over 50% stating that they play co-op all the time. The results surprised them so much that before, they thought of co-op as a nice-to-have feature, but after the survey, well, co-op climbed up in the must-have group of their development for their previous game. And that is not everything, since their survey also showed a heavy interest in a long and epic campaign, players expecting 40 hours of content for a full-priced game, and with 2/3 of the voters prioritizing the campaign over multiplayer content. So it shouldn't be a complete surprise to hear the creative director Jan Thijssen state, "The most important thing is the campaign," and that for a single-player RTS campaign fan, this game probably offers more than any other RTS out there. And that's a very strong statement. Now, of course, nothing is confirmed, but if we put 1 and 1 together, it is very easy to see the connections between the survey and the news we're seeing about Dawn of War 4. And at least campaign-wise, players are getting exactly what they were asking for. But that's not everything, and according to my diggings, we should expect a lot more cooperative content. So, it is already well known that the beloved Last Stand mode from the first game is making a return in Dawn of War 4, which is basically a horde survival mode for RTS defending against legions of enemies. This was an immensely popular game mode back in Dawn of War 1, and it is actually one of the most popular features in the ambitious community-made unification project for it, expanding the base game with at least a dozen more factions to play as, and improving the cooperative and Last Stand game modes with tons of new features. And the good news is that Dawn of War 4 might be looking very similar to the beloved unification project. King Art Games' previous title is a game called Iron Harvest, an RTS set in the alternate universe where after World War I the nations of Eastern Europe remain in a dieselpunk mecha war between one another, creating an extremely unique gameplay and atmosphere. Apart from it actually being extremely similar to the Dawn of War series, having minimal base building, battle objective-based resources, unit upgrades and reinforces, and a thorough cover system, it is also just a bloody fun video game. But more importantly, it has all the signs and foundations on what we can expect from Dawn of War 4. Iron Harvest also features a pretty lengthy and detailed campaign for each of the nations, resulting in at least 20 to 30 hours of story missions, but it also has an iconic world campaign mode where you can play a more long-form and almost story-driven campaign of your own choice and settings, with unique map styles and different starting settings, like being the underdog nation. Already, all of this sounds great, but what got me the most excited is seeing that Last Stand is not only making a return in Dawn of War 4, but the foundations were already laid down in Iron Harvest, where they had specific challenge missions with unique objectives around either surviving waves of enemies or having to attack fortifications and laying a siege. They also stated that making these challenge missions and scenarios cooperative was on their to-do list as a priority, but unfortunately they could not finish that before moving on to their next project, which we now know is Dawn of War 4. And very likely, the next iteration of these challenge missions and cooperative mode for them is exactly what Last Stand is going to be, taking another goal from that RTS survey. What's really cool and unique about the challenge missions is that there are special difficulty modifiers for them, more than just AI difficulty, very similar to how the Unification mod handles it in Dawn of War 1. In one of the recent blog posts, Jan also stated that apart from the very unique factions, they also have, quote, extensive setup options for skirmishes and multiplayer. So naturally, I was really curious what these extensive options might look like for us. So, in Iron Harvest, where they were sadly limited in how much they could implement, they already had so-called bonus objectives that would offer more profile experience. Yes, there's likely going to be leveling profile system, and from what I read, even passive hero leveling between games, but that's another topic. In Iron Harvest, these bonus challenges were quite simple, yet fun, like do not lose more units than 8, 5 or 3 units in a single game, or reducing the health of player units versus the computer, very similar to what we have in Unification mod. Now we know that they were extremely surprised from the RTS survey results and that they put cooperative mode as a priority for their development. But seeing the foundations already laid in Iron Harvest, and them saying there will be even more extensive settings and options for Dawn of War 4, I'm not only extremely optimistic and hopeful, but maybe, with the recent extreme success of co-op games, I even expect them to potentially create a long-term, almost live service like RTS with constantly updated, challenging cooperative content that will rival games like Darktide and Space Marine 2. But that's all for now. If you watched the whole video, definitely leave a VOA below in the comments, and do share your opinions on the matter. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next update.